Now, do you have to be a resident to own property in Mexico?
You do not need to be a resident to own property in Mexico whatsoever. Actually, I would recommend against becoming a resident, or for most cases. I'll mention when it's beneficial to be a resident. But if you can stay off the government's radar for whatever time, do so. Becoming a resident, you are now liable to pay taxes. A foreigner cannot directly own a property in Mexico. The restriction comes from the foreign investment law that says you cannot own directly as a foreigner a property in parts that are 100 kilometers from the border or 50 kilometers from shoreline. That would be 62 miles or 31 miles, respectively. So, if we're talking about the Baja area, which I think is the conversation of interest here, uh, you there is a restriction of acquiring property as a foreigner directly. Now, there's a way to bypass this restriction, and it's by acquiring property indirectly through vehicle. There are two vehicles that would be the fideicomiso, famous fideicomiso, or bank trust in English, or through a Mexican company corporation. Um,
An LLC or something?
it's equal to an LLC. That would be the Mexican company, and the fideicomiso would be equal to a bank trust.
So if somebody passes away and your home title isn't in a trust, it kind of goes to the state, and then you have to go and retrieve it from the state. If there's no heirs, then the state just gets it. So how does it work in terms of if somebody passes away?
It would work similarly, if not identical, as it would in the US. The fideicomiso or trust, it's an entity with its own set of rules. It's like an agreement or bylaws, depending on how you want to look at it, that you determine with the bank. You need the bank's approval, but most things are approved unless they are against the law. So within the fideicomiso, you can establish any succession or probate or heir laws, rules. So when you pass away, you can leave rights and obligations to whoever you want and need them to pass on to. So be kid, be third parties. You can have someone to take care of the financials, and then you can have someone just acquiring the right. That's also possible, or it could be the same person.
So how do people know that their money is secured during the escrow period? In the States, you put the money in the escrow.
As you mentioned, escrow account, we don't have in Mexico. We don't have escrow. Okay, that's an American thing. So we, being the 51st state of the U.S. in Cabo,
Canada.
the southern one, we decided to use escrow because a lot of Americans are transacting here. So the escrows we use are based in the U.S. If you look up any escrow that's going to be offered, they're going to have their offices in Dallas, in Miami, and also Cabo. But really, the money in the bank account is in the U.S. So when you open up an escrow account, do the down payment, to do whatever deposits need to be done to be able to move forward with the closing. You will deposit them in the escrow account that's in the U.S. and that money is not movable by any other parties that's on escrow. Now, you sent escrow either your LOI, your letter of intent, or your promise agreement to purchase, your promise purchase agreement, and they'll take that into consideration as the rules of the escrow. Now, aside from that, they'll also send you a general escrow agreement that will have when you can withdraw and when you can deposit and all the more detailed things for the escrow to work. And so for that reason, when you deposit that down payment and something goes awry, in order for you to get it back, you can ask escrow for it. Say, hey, they did not comply with our agreement, so I need my money back. It's as simple as that. Now, escrow doesn't take 60 to 90 days to open. That's going to take a week at most to open. So what takes 60 to 90 days would be the due diligence process, which can be done with the down payment inside the escrow account.
Oh,
But you can open up escrow start due diligence and say, I'll leave the money in escrow as down payment. If the due diligence comes clean, we'll keep going. If not, I want my money back.
How do we ensure that the seller or the developers actually have title?
You can make sure that the seller is the owner before you buy. It's not an easy process. We have to jump through a lot of red tape, government red tape. We have to go to the offices, pressure. It takes some time to find out the real owner. The best thing is when you are doing this due diligence process is that the sellers send you the documentation and it's all there, right? That's not always the case, where usually you can find the way with what they've sent. Now, sometimes what they send is so phony and you can tell very quickly, hey, this is not there, you know? Sometimes they hide it a lot better, which you'll find it, but you'll find out pretty quick. That's why it's very important to do due diligence process. Hire a lawyer you trust and a capable lawyer that can do a good due diligence process
I know one.
before you put any money anywhere. I mean, aside from the down payment for the escrow, right? Now, that's not what would worry me because you can find out very quickly if it's phony, if it's real, if they're trying to pull your hair. What worries me the most and it's the biggest concern, and I've seen the most, call it scamming or selling something it's not. It's when a big developer brand, not to name any, they will tell you, I'm gonna sell you this pre-construction and I'm gonna give you the title deed in a year, right? I mean, I'm gonna construct in a year and then it's gonna take 2 to 3 months for me to give you the public deed.